From stories across the globe to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
I'm Moin Hetiarachi, and here are today's headlines. Sri Lanka is to receive a $400 million concessionary loan from the Indian government, another $50 million to be received for countering terrorism. The Minister of Education says the Suraksha Students Insurance Scheme will be continued without leaving room for irregularities. The government has taken steps to release stocks of rice to the market without shortage during the forthcoming festive season. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says 50,000 teaching assistants will be absorbed into the public service. An enhancement in prevailing showery condition forecast from tomorrow.
We now move on to those and other stories in detail. The Indian government has granted Sri Lanka a concessionary loan of $400 million. In addition, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says another concessionary loan of $50 million will be granted for countering terrorism. India extends its fullest support to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's vision of prosperity. Official bilateral discussion between President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took place this afternoon at the Hyderabad mansion at New Delhi. At the bilateral discussion, attention was focused on giving priority to defence cooperation whilst uplifting economic relations and also focusing attention on the Indo-Lanka fishing issue. After the discussion, the Indian Prime Minister and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa expressed their views to the media. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he regards the newly elected Sri Lankan president's acceptance of his invitation to engage in the first official overseas state visit as an honour to India, which is a neighbour to Sri Lanka. The Indian Premier expressed his pleasure at the victory secured by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and extended the best wishes of all Indians, expressing confidence that the reconciliation process in Sri Lanka will go forward continuously. The Indian Premier also focused his attention on the development of all provinces, including the north and east.
Bohama, Stuti, Nandri, Dhanyavad.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, expressing his views, extended an invitation for the Indian Premier to visit Sri Lanka.
For inviting me and also the great hospitality extended to me. And Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and I discussed several important issues this morning. The discussions were extremely cordial and reassuring. Among these, cooperation in regard to security of our two countries took priority. India has always assisted Sri Lanka to enhance our capabilities in intelligence and counter-terrorism, and we look forward to continue support in this regard. I want to thank for his offering $50 million credit line to enhance the capabilities of the intelligence agencies. Since our recent experience in April this year, we have had to rethink our national security strategies, and assistance from India in this regard would be most appreciated. On this regard, His Excellency Prime Minister's assurances are most encouraging. Whilst with India, our cooperation is multifaceted, with priority given to security-related matters. With other countries, initiatives for cooperation are by and large economic and commercial. We will continue to work closely with India to ensure that Indian Ocean remain as a zone of peace. We also discussed how Sri Lanka and India could work together in economically important matters. As India emerges to be among world's growing economies, I discussed with the Prime Minister how Sri Lanka could benefit out of certain economic sectors where India is strongly positioned. I thank Prime Minister, His Excellency Narendra Modi, for his positive responses to many of the initiatives I proposed to enhance Sri Lanka's economy. We discussed in length the fishermen's issue and will take steps to release the boats belong to India in our custody. And also I want to particularly in offering $400 million as a credit off line to improve our infrastructure and the economy. Prime Minister and I also discussed how India could assist us in trade between our two countries. Since my election as the President of Sri Lanka, the first official invitation was from His Excellency Prime Minister and the Government of India. I'm certainly very happy to be here because India is our closest neighbor as well as our long-standing friend. I would avail of this opportunity to invite Prime Minister Modi to visit us as the first head of government to visit Sri Lanka since my election as the President of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. This concludes the press event. Thank you all for joining.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says he intends to take Indo-Sri Lanka relations to the highest level during his tenure. He emphasizes he intends to jointly act for the benefit of the people of both countries. Indian President Ram Nath Kovind, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and a number of Indian ministers welcomed the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa when he arrived at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. Indian President Ram Nath Kovind warmly welcomed the Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is on an official tour in India this morning. A ceremonial reception was held at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The delegation of both sides were introduced and thereafter the Sri Lankan President expressed his views to the media.
To His Excellency Prime Minister.
Meanwhile, the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also met with Indian Foreign Minister Dr.
Expectations are very high. During my tenure as the President, I want to bring the relationship between India and Sri Lanka into a very high level, and we have of course a long-standing friendship historically, culturally and politically. At the same time, we need to work together for the benefit of India as well as Sri Lanka and people of Sri Lanka on security as well as and politically. At the same time, we need to work together for the benefit of India as well as Sri Lanka and people of Sri Lanka on security as well as the economic development. So during my discussions, I want to ensure that we work together for the benefits of our people. Thank you.
Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also met with Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar at the New Delhi. The Indian Foreign Minister expressed his pleasure at Sri Lankan President's acceptance of Indian Premiership's invitation in selecting India to make the first official state visit. he expressed confidence that the long-term ties of friendship will be further strengthened between the two neighbors. Dr. Jaishankar emphasizes that Indian government will extend its fullest support to the work plan of Sri Lanka's new government. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was thankful for the invitation extended to him by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to conduct a state visit of India. At the discussion, President pointed out that it is his objective to enhance the bilateral friendship between the two countries.
In the meantime, the heads of state of India and Sri Lanka have posted tweets expressing their pleasure at the strengthening of bilateral relations between the two countries. The tweets reflect that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's first official overseas state visit has been successful. The Indian Prime Minister had tweeted in the Sinhala, Tamil and English languages. The tweets state that it had been a pleasure to welcome President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on his first overseas visit. The Indian Premier states this state visit can be regarded as a symbol of the long-standing Indo-Sri Lanka relations. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, in a tweet, thanked the Indian government for the support received in the aspects of national security in Sri Lanka, development and trade. The president's tweet points out that a strong and stable Sri Lanka is important not only for India but for the entire region.
Minister Dallas Allah Peruma issuing a release states the Ministry of Education has taken the responsibility to continue with the Suraksha Students Insurance Scheme regarding its national responsibility to not leave room for irregularities. The minister in his release states the Suraksha Students Insurance Scheme can be regarded as a significant project that launched on behalf of over 4 million student population in the country. He further stated when he assumed duties at the Ministry of Education, he pointed out this fact to the media as well. He says after he provided clarification in this regard, the President and the Cabinet of Ministers decided to continue with the insurance scheme in a manner which students receive the maximum benefits. The minister further stated, although the productive projects, steps have been taken to rectify any shortcoming in its implementation. Thereby, the Ministry of Education states the Suraksha Students Insurance Scheme will continue to be in force.
The government has taken steps to release stocks of rice without shortage in view of the forthcoming festive season. The paddy at the storages of the Paddy Marketing Board will be processed into rice and released to the market by Lanka Sathosa outlets. Paddy purchased during the last Maha cultivation season have been stored, and these stocks of paddy will be distributed through district secretaries to identified rice mills of the private sector to be processed into rice to be sold by Lanka Sathosa outlets. Thereby, during the forthcoming week, stocks of paddy across all paddy storages in the island will be processed into rice and released to the market through Sathosa outlets. These decisions were taken at a discussion chaired by Secretary to the Treasury and the Secretary to the Ministry of Economic and Policy Development yesterday. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says 50,000 teaching assistants will be absorbed into the teaching service in one batch. The objective is to allocate 2 teachers per classroom in all primary classes across all schools. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says this plan has been implemented according to the manifesto of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Minister Bandula Gunawardena observes in the primary classes from grades 1 to 5, usually one class teacher is in charge of the class. He notes when that class teacher is unavailable, such as due to sickness, a difficulty arises in arranging a substitute. He notes in developed countries, for classrooms that have small children, the teacher and a teaching assistant are available. He further stated steps have been taken to recruit 50,000 teaching assistants to the teaching service with the intention of allocating 2 teachers for all primary classes across all schools from 2020. He noted this is pledge given in the manifesto of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
මේක ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාගේ මැතිවරණ ප්‍රකාශනයේ තියෙන ප්‍රතිඥාවක්. විශ්වවිද්‍යාල උපාධිධාරීන් සංඛ්‍යාව විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට යාමට සුසුකම් ලබන සියලු දෙනාට උපාධියක් ලබා ගැනීමට අවස්ථාව සැලසීම. මේ අරමුණු දෙකම ඉෂ්ට කිරීම 2020 වර්ෂයේදී ආරම්භ කළාම හෙට මේ දරුවන්ගේ අනාගතය කරුවල නැහැ.
The minister expressed these views joining in the ceremony to vest the renovated two-storied building at the Hangwala Articular Junior School with the students. The cost involved has been 9 million rupees, whilst allocations were made by Western Provincial Council.
The Ministry of Health says HIV-infected cases are commonly observed among men having sex with men. In Sri Lanka, thereby, health authorities emphasize that responsible sexual relationships need to be maintained. These details were disclosed at a media briefing held recently to mark World AIDS Day, which falls on 1st of December. This year's theme for World AIDS Day is Think Together, Make a Change, Fight AIDS. The human immunodeficiency virus, abbreviated as HIV, breaks down the immune system of the infected patients. The number of newly infected patients as of September 30th, 2019 has been 314. Sri Lanka is heading towards eradicating AIDS from the country by 2025. As content circulating on social media encourage risky behavior that results in the spread of the sexually transmitted disease, the government is focused on preventing such contents. A program is also underway to obtain public contribution in curbing the disease. A walk in this regard has been organized at Campbell Park in Baralla at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. An exhibition to raise awareness also commenced today at the Colombo Town Hall and will end tomorrow.
The Met Department forecasts the prevailing showery condition expedited across the island to enhance to a certain extent from tomorrow. Showers or thunder showers may occur in several places and several provinces. Heavy falls between 100 to 150 millimeters of rain can be expected in some places in the northern, northwestern, Sabaragamuwa western and central provinces and in the Trincomalee district. Heavy falls of up to 100 millimeters of rain can be expected elsewhere. Wind speed can increase up to 40 kilometers per hour at times over the central hills, the northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee district. Misty conditions can be expected in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces during the morning hours. The general public is kindly advised to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporarily localized strong winds during thunder showers and lightning activity.
Several state ministers of the new government assumed duties today. State Minister of Defence Chamal Rajapaksa assumed duties at the Ministry of Defence today. He was welcomed by the Ministry's Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne, the Chief of Defence of Staff and the commanders of the Trial Forces. State Minister of Information and Communication Technology Yak Lakshman Yapa Abewardena assumed duties at the Ministry of Mass Media today. He said media freedom will not be hindered and steps will be taken to introduce a code of ethics for the social media. State Minister of Water Supply Vasudeva Nanaikara assumed duties at the office of his ministry at Palavatta in Battaramulla today. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa also attended the event. He said there are no plans to increase water bill charges. State Minister of Investment Development Kehelia Rambukwalla also assumed duties today. The State Minister said he intends to attract new investments to the country. State Minister of Irrigation and Rural Development Mahinda Yapa Abewardena assumed duties today. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa was also present at the occasion. State Minister of Education Services Ranjit Siambala Pitia assumed duties at the Ministry of Education today. The State Minister said the Suraksha Students Insurance Scheme will be continued. Minister of Technology and Innovations Bandula Gunawardena assumed duties at his ministry in Setsiripaya in Battaramulla today. State Minister Tilanga Sumatipala joined in the occasion. State Minister of Power and Energy Rohita Abegunawardena assumed duties at his ministry in Dematagoda today. Secretary of the Ministry Vasanta Pereira and a number of guests were present. State Minister of Social Welfare Taraka Balasuriya assumed duties at the Ministry of Social Welfare at Setsiripaya in Battaramulla today. Former Minister Jagat Balasuriya and former Governor Kumari Balasuriya and a number of invitees were present. State Minister of Tourism Promotion, Anuruddhika Fernando, assumed duties at his ministry today. Religious dignitaries representing all faiths and a number of invitees were present. State Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Kanchana Wijesekara, assumed duties at his ministry today. State Minister of Environmental Affairs, Jayantha Samaravira, assumed duties at his ministry today. Minister Vimal Veeravansha and a group of guests were present.
The Speaker's Media Division states the Chairman of the Elections Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, has forwarded a request to the President to be relieved of his duties. Speaker Karajaya Surya, responding to this request as the Chairman of the Constitutional Council, says in his personal opinion he believes that the Chairman of the Elections Commission should not resign at this juncture but should continue throughout his entire tenure. The Speaker highly praised the excellent task performed by the Elections Commission under the leadership of its present Chairman. The Speaker further states the guidance of the Chairman of the Elections Commission is vital in effecting the necessary reforms identified in the electoral process and in directing the next decisive elections.
The United National Party convened a media briefing in Colombo today. Parliamentarian Vijaypala Hettiara Chief, responding to a question raised by a journalist as to whether discussions are underway with former Minister Sajid Premadasa, said the leader of UNP is prepared to implement the decisions of the parliamentarians. He noted a letter bearing 57 signatures of the UNF parliamentarians was prepared requesting for the opposition leader's post. The MP explained the party leaders hoped to discuss with the presidential candidates fielded by the United National Front, Sajid Premadasa, and arrived at a decision. The MP opined former Minister Sajid Premadasa will respond positively today. The Supreme Court today issued an interim injunction preventing till the 10th of next month all overseas travel for Jude Shamantha Jayamaha, who had been served the death sentence in connection with the Royal Park murder, but was released on presidential pardon recently. The petition in this regard was fielded by Women's Media Collective. The President's Council, appearing on behalf of the collective, said the decision taken by the former President to grant presidential pardon to the individual only when there are over 1,000 inmates who have served the death sentence is unconstitutional. Information has surfaced that the individual has already migrated abroad. Thereby, it was decided to take up a petition for the hearing once again on the 9th of this month. The petition calls for the court to issue an order declaring the presidential pardon as unconstitutional and for the defendant to be imprisoned again.
Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says steps will be taken to increase the efficiency level of the passenger services at the Katunayaka airport. The minister engaged in an observation tour of the airport last evening. After the observation, the minister held a discussion with the senior management of the airport. Attention was focused on the development of the airport. The minister also expressed his views to the media. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says currently around 12 million passengers use the airport. Therefore, there is a rush. He explains, giving priority to the customer, the process needs to be arranged to efficiently deal with the arrivals and the departures. He further stated plans in this regard were delayed due to various issues concerning the contractors and others connected with the government. He added they will rectify these issues and entrust the responsibility on the ministry to discuss and solve these issues.
The National Environment Programme is further underway across the island. The programme has been launched upon a concept of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Kurunegala town and the surrounding areas were cleaned today, jointly in Kurunegala Municipal Council and the police. Community and environmental committee members and a number of voluntary organisers joined in the programme. The programme to clean Udugama town in Galvers Lane launched under the supervision of Udugama Police today. Civil organisations and people's representatives joined in the exercise. In addition, the removal of posters, cutouts and polythene also took place. A programme to clean Kandy town also took place today. The premise of the Central Market was one of the locations that were cleaned. The Kandy SSP supervised the cleaning process. The cleaning of Trincomalee Beach also took place this evening. The Trincomalee Urban Council, staff of General Hospital and organisation by the name of Our Trincomalee also contributed. The Benthara Tourist Beach was also cleaned. The Benthara Pradeshya Sabha tour guides and three-wheeler drivers also joined in the exercise. It was organised by Benthara Police. That's it for tonight's English News broadcast. Thank you for joining us.
Good night.